Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, look, we're going to completely flip how you look at a building you've probably visited hundreds of times. When you walk through those doors, it's super easy to just see a quiet, maybe kind of dusty room crammed with shelves of books. But behind that completely serene facade, there's this incredibly complex, highly engineered ecosystem operating at literally maximum efficiency. So today, we're unpacking the systemic, architectural blueprint of the modern library. Okay, let's dive into this with a quote that just totally shatters that old stereotype. Quote, "A modern library is not a static storehouse, but a dynamic, lifelong learning system." Think about that for a second. It's not a warehouse. It's a living, breathing machine designed to curate, process, and actually deliver knowledge. And, just like any complex machine, it relies on some really sturdy foundational pillars to keep the whole shebang running smoothly. So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The blueprint overview. 2. Building the collection. 3. Empowering personnel. 4. Fueling operations. 5. Executing the mission. And finally, number 6, the living ecosystem. Let's get right to it. Starting off with section 1, the blueprint overview. And this layout brilliantly illustrates the massive blueprint we're anchoring our entire explainer on today. You can see how the ecosystem is divided into 4 massive interconnected pillars. Up in the top left, we've got collection management. That's curating the physical and digital knowledge base, right? Top right is human resources, the specialized personnel driving the system. Down on the bottom left is financial management, the strategic budgeting that literally fuels the operation. And bottom right, departmental functions. Those are the specialized sections actually executing the big picture vision. Literally every single action in a library falls under one of these 4 pillars. Moving right along to section 2, building the collection. Now, building a collection isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a continuous step-by-step loop. It kicks off with user analysis, moves straight into selection and acquisition, uses resource sharing, things like interlibrary loans, requires really rigorous maintenance and verification, and finally wraps up with weeding out old materials. And here's the absolute crucial reminder here. As a patron, we are the end users. You are the one actually driving that very first step of user analysis. When we visually map those exact steps onto this cyclical diagram, you can really see how tightly interconnected they are. It's a true closed-loop system. The library figures out what you need, they acquire it, they maintain it, and then look at that final step on the left, weeding. By scientifically tossing out damaged or totally irrelevant materials, the collection is kept vital, it stays healthy. And that weeding process, it feeds right back into fresh user analysis, and the cycle just starts all over again. Now, what's really interesting here is how technology has absolutely revolutionized the maintenance and verification step of that loop. On the left, you're looking at the manual era. Imagine 2 staff members painstakingly checking physical access registers, literally shelf by shelf. It took forever, and honestly, it risks damaging the books. But contrast that with the right side, the ICT, or Information and Communication Technology era. By using RFID, radio frequency identification tags, and these sleek handheld scanners, staff can instantly compare their scanned stock right against the library automation software. It spots lost or misplaced items in seconds with barely any physical handling. It's a massive leap in operational efficiency. All right, section 3, empowering personnel. So, to build this human engine we're talking about, library management has to do some highly precise structural staffing. And this relies super heavily on 2 terms that sound pretty similar, but are actually vastly different: job analysis and job evaluation. Job analysis is all about zeroing in on the specific tasks and duties a role actually requires. Job evaluation, though, that determines the worth, the actual fair wages for those specific responsibilities. This diagnostic matrix breaks that distinction down perfectly. If you glance at the left column, job analysis uses things like questionnaires and interviews to figure out exactly how a job is done. And the end result? A concrete, comprehensive job description that they use for recruitment. Now look over at the right column. Job evaluation takes that exact description, applies rating systems, and its end result is an equitable compensation structure that knocks out wage inequalities. So analysis creates the role, evaluation ensures it's paid fairly. You absolutely need both to properly staff the structural engine of the library. Let's shift gears to section 4, fueling operations. Because look, libraries cannot run on just good vibes and goodwill alone, right? They need distinct revenue sources. And those sources completely change depending on their environment. Public libraries lean really heavily on taxes and government grants. Academic libraries, they're fueled by recurring university grants and student fees. And special libraries, think corporate or government agency libraries. They get their funding directly from their parent institutions. But how does a library actually know how much fuel it needs? They don't just guess. They use rigorous mathematical estimation techniques. There are three main methodologies you see here. The per capita method calculates a fixed minimum amount per head, so per person in the population or student body. The proportional method draws a set fixed percentage directly out of the parent authority's overall budget. And then there's the method of details. This is an exhaustive, granular estimate accounting for literally every specific line item. We're talking salaries all the way down to the postage stamps. It is incredibly precise strategic budgeting. Which brings us to Section 5, executing the mission. When you walk into a local branch, you're usually only seeing one tiny part of this massive operational blueprint. This layout maps out the three core operational zones. On the left, in dark blue, is ingestion and processing. That's the back office where raw materials arrive. In the middle, in teal, is user interaction. This is the front desk, circulation, the dynamic heartbeat of the whole place that you actually interact with. And over on the right, in orange, is infrastructure and longevity. The protective forces like IT and preservation, making sure the entire system actually survives. Let's move to and see how this builds by zooming right in on that very first operational zone, ingestion. Tracking a single new book's journey through the back office is actually fascinating. Phase 1 is acquisition, where the staff run pre-order searches just to avoid buying duplicates, and then they receive and log the delivery into the accession register. From there, it jumps to Phase 2, technical processing. This is where it gets classified, assigned a call number that translates its subject into notation, and then cataloged. That creates the searchable metadata and those physical spine labels you see. So it goes from a raw delivery sitting in a cardboard box to a dynamic, totally searchable asset ready for the shelves. Finally, Section 6, the living ecosystem. So we've explored the four main pillars: collection, HR, finance, and departments. Now it's time to step back and really synthesize all these architectural elements. This brings everything together into the living library. Notice how precision in financial planning, combined with highly dedicated human resources, rigorous collection strategies, and specialized departmental execution, they all just seamlessly interact. They aren't isolated little silos, they're fully interconnected nodes. Think about it. If funding drops, acquisitions slow down, catalogers have less to process, and ultimately, the user's need just isn't met. When functioning perfectly, this integrated ecosystem exists to do exactly one thing: deliver the absolute right information to the right user at exactly the right time. So, the crucial point is this. The next time you step through the doors of a library, I want you to remember that you aren't just walking into a room full of books. You are stepping into a highly engineered, continuously operating knowledge machine. How does this hidden, intricate architecture impact your own community and your personal lifelong learning journey? It's a pretty powerful question to consider. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep exploring the systems that build our world.